Hi, today we're going to learn about how to complete the square to solve. So consider ax squared plus bx plus c. So when we try to solve by completing the square, what we're doing is we're trying to find some c that we can combine ax squared and bx into some squared term. So what I mean by this is if we have x squared plus 4x minus 6 equals 0, and we want to solve for x, what we need to do is we need to think about this right here and think about what our c should be in order for us to have a perfect square. So if we divide 4 in half, we get 2, and if we square 2, we get 4. So if this right here was a 4, we could write this as x plus 2 squared. But it's not a 4, it's a negative 6. So to fix this, we're going to add 10 to both sides. So now we have x squared plus 4x plus 4 equals 10. And so now we see that this is a perfect square. So we can write this as x plus 2 squared. So for our general use, if we have x plus q squared, if we FOIL this out, we're going to have x squared plus 2qx plus q squared. And basically what we want to do is find q so we know what q squared is. So when we look at the x term, we want to divide the coefficient by 2. So how does this method help us to solve? So taking the problem that we just worked through, we can take the square root of both sides. And we get x plus 2 equals plus or minus square root of 10. And so if we subtract 2 from both sides, x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 10. And those will be our roots. And we can check this because if we plug in to the original, so if we take the positive here, we get 4 minus 4 square root of 10 plus 10 plus negative 8 plus 4 square root of 10 minus 6 equals 0. So this will be 14 minus 4 square root of 10. We see we have a plus 4 square root of 10 there. So that actually cancels out. Minus 8 minus 6 equals 0, which is true. And if we check with the negative, we get x squared, which is 4, plus 4 square root of 10 plus 10 plus x times 4, which is negative 8 minus 4 square root of 10 minus 6. So that's 14, 6 minus 6 is 0, plus 4 square root of 10 minus 4 square root of 10 is 0. So that works too. Let's try a harder problem. So 2x squared minus 7x equals negative 12. So to make this easier on ourselves, we're going to divide every term by 2 so that we can get a coefficient here of 1. So x squared minus 7 over 2x equals negative 6. So if we think about what we need to double to get negative 7 over 2, we see that negative 7 over 4, if we multiply this by 2, we get negative 7 over 2. So, if we square this to find our c value, we get 49 over 16. So, this is what we need to have a perfect square of x minus 7 over 4. So, we add this both sides. So, 49 over 16 plus 49 over 16. So, negative 6 will be negative 96 over 16. Add these two together, we get negative 47 over 16. And we know that this is x minus 7 over 4 squared, which equals negative 47 over 16. We take the square root. We get x minus 7 over 4 equals plus or minus, and we put the plus or minus every time that we are the ones that are taking the square root. And then we go negative 47 over 4 because the square root of 16 is 4. And then we add over the 7 over 4 and we get x equals plus, or if we write the 7 over 4 first, 7/4 plus or minus square root of negative 47 over 4, which is just 7 plus or minus the square root of negative 47 over 4. And this will be our solution.